for those who have come in during the year. Some have been with us the whole year, some has not. But it doesn't matter, just as long as you're here. And we want to build our recovery on Christ Jesus. So today for us tonight is a guy coming from Chad's Hope. Is a recovery center in Manchester. And he's actually went there and now he works there. And I don't know his whole story, but I've heard good things about his testimony. He is James Allen Bradley, and we want to welcome him to celebrate recovery here in Richmond, Kentucky.
I'll get nervous and have it down my waist. All right. Well, it's good to be here with you guys in Richmond tonight. I want to thank Mike and Eva and Miss Christine for allowing me this opportunity to come and share. And I thought they said these lights were going to go off. No? We're going to leave the lights on? That is really bright.
I'm sorry, I thought they did go off.
That's okay. That's okay. I've had some eye surgeries and that glare is kind of bright. But there you go. That's good. But anyway, my story is no more special than nobody else's. I'm nothing special, that's for sure. The only thing special about me is my Lord and Savior. But I do like to share my story and try to give others hope. And of course, that hope is found in Jesus. As Mike said, my journey started about, I've been Chad. Actually, my addiction actually started way back in 1982, and I won't go into a whole lot of detail about that, but I don't want to glorify the past, but I do want to kind of let you know where I've been and what all God brought me through. When I was raised up in a good home. There wasn't alcohol and drugs there, but my mom and dad they weren't Christians, so didn't hear a lot about the Lord in my house. But like I said, there wasn't drugs and alcohol. And so I had a relatively smooth childhood. Everything seemed to go well all through grade school. High school was okay, but then my sophomore, junior year, I don't know. Honestly, looking back, I don't know what happened, but obviously peer pressure was one thing, but I don't know. I'd always run around with the good guys, and the guys was good in sports, and I played sports myself. And anyway, wasn't expecting that. But anyway, I don't know, around my junior year, I just had a desire, for whatever reason, I don't know, I just had a desire to start running around with, as I told Christine, the bad boys. I wanted to run around with the tough guys. And for whatever reason, I don't know, I still don't know this day exactly why that was, but I started running around with the wrong crowd. And so I took my first drink of alcohol, I think at 16. Of course, it wasn't long till I was smoking marijuana. Wasn't long till I was doing pills. Wasn't long, and you guys know the rest of that story. It was started out experimenting, just doing the weekend thing. It wasn't long till that was full-blown addiction. I was drinking. You started out drinking on the weekends, and my drinking also was also a recovering alcoholic. Used to drink a lot. Get up and drink whiskey for breakfast, and eat Xanaxes and whiskey, and smoke marijuana the first thing of the day, and go to bed that way, and get up and start again. And I was actually in church, my junior year of high school. I was in church for a short time, and that's a story in itself. I have a lot of stories I can tell you, but that's kind of a story in itself. And but I knew that I was supposed to be in church. I knew that was, I just knew inside of me, in my heart, I was supposed to be in church and living for the Lord. But at that time, my desire to do what I wanted to do, that kind of pushed that to the side. So I quit church. Like I said, began to drink more and more and more, and just ran around and was just not much good for nothing, just to be honest with you. The next 20 years of my life was just pretty much one big party. In and out of jail over and over and over, total cars, trucks, motorcycles, shot at several times. I got hit in the head once. I actually heard the bullet pass by my head. People talked about killing me, drug dealers, and this, and that, and the other. And so had a lot of those, the bikers and such that I ran around with, some of the older guys, there's after I got to Chad's Hope and got to thinking about it, I could count like 18 guys that was shot and killed over drugs, and that was people I ran with, you know. And so at that time, back when I was young, I thought I was tough, and I carried a gun all everywhere I went, and I thought I was lucky. I thought I was tough. Looking back, I was just completely stupid. It was just that I think God had a plan for me, and He was watching over me, because there was just way too many times I really should have probably been killed. But after about 20 years of that, I don't know, I can still remember I was at my mother's apartment. I felt like the top of my head was going to blow off. I knew that I'd been running from the Lord and I needed to be in church. And the pressure was just, I don't know, I was just really miserable. And I cried out to the Lord. I actually got back in church. That was in 2002. And I got back in church, and I don't know, I actually, at that time, you know, by then, you know, I'd been taking the Xanax for 20 years, or Valium and Xanax. So they definitely had a hold of me. You know, they controlled me. I didn't control them anymore. That's kind of that's what I went to bed thinking about. Where was I going to get a Xanax the next day, or a bottle of Xanax for that matter? That was what my life was about, was having those pills. And I couldn't function without, I really couldn't function without them. And so I went to church, I don't know, 4 or 5 years taking those prescription pills. I actually quit drinking, I quit smoking, doing all the other drugs that goes along with that. I quit all that, and of course I justified, you know, well, I have to have these, you know, these other pills. But I was taking, you know, I think I was prescribed probably 3 a day at that time. I was probably taking 7 or 8 a day, I don't know. Taking a lot more than I was supposed to. And so by taking those, you know, I just couldn't, obviously I couldn't take those pills and be in a daze, and I couldn't learn, you know, even though I was in church, I learned some scripture and this and that and the other. You know, I wasn't living for the Lord. I was just in a daze and just wasn't drinking as much and wasn't smoking as much and some of that other stuff, but I was still a mess, just deceived. But after several years of that, the drinking, actually went about 6 years there without drinking, and then started back, and it, of course, got worse than ever. Drink more than ever. Started back to smoking again, started back all the other stuff, the harder drugs that comes along with it. I've done all that, all of it. Done quite a bit of it. And again, my life's just a mess. I wasn't going everything. It's just a complete mess. I kind of lived check to check and payday to payday. You know, it was just all about being high. That was my life, and being numb. Actually, to being numb to everything. So I think it was around in 2012 is when I guess that's when I hit my lowest point. Excuse me. I just found myself sitting on my couch, and it was just like everything just kind of flashed before my eyes. You know, I just thought, wow, I'm 47 years old, and I don't have any money. I had an old beat-up car. I had a tiny little house. My retina had detached. I was just barely above legally blind in my right eye at that time. And so I was just sitting there thinking, wow, you know, I haven't lived. I've just existed. You know, I haven't lived. And it was just, you know, I can stand here and tell you about it, but you have no idea how, you know, that was, or somebody has, I'm sure many of you have an idea, but it was a really, really dark time. I just sat there, and I was going through a lot, you know, emotionally, and I remember getting angry. But just before that, I remember as I was sitting there thinking all this stuff, you know, I remember a tear go running down my cheek. And because I never was one to cry much, but that tear ran down my cheek, and I just thought, I think I'm losing my mind. I thought, am I losing my mind? And so the devil was really working hard on me, you know. And then I remember becoming angry. And I just thought, you know what, if I can't live, and I don't know if I said this stuff out loud, or if it was just in my mind, I don't know, I was a mess. But had really struggled with depression in the last 3 years. And so I become, like I said, really angry. And I remember saying, you know, if I can't serve the Lord and do what's right, I'll stop this. I was like, I'm not going to serve you no more, devil. I'll stop this. And so, of course, I was thinking, you know, I began to think of ways how, you know, I knew I had a friend that tried to commit suicide. My mom had a friend that tried to commit suicide. And I thought, you know, I don't want to do something and be disfigured or whatever. You know, how can I do this? And I began to go into detail. I won't go into all that about how I could do that. And so, like I said, it's a really dark time. It's probably the darkest of my life. And I've went through a lot of depression. But you know, at and I do like to share this, at that time, probably the darkest time of my life was when I heard a little voice I'd never heard before. And when I said, I'll stop this, it wasn't like, just seemed like seconds. And I heard this little whisper. It was like, that won't please the Lord either. That won't please the Lord. And I was thinking, man, I know suicide's wrong, because I'd been in church and, I read the Bible a lot. And so it's like, wow, I don't want to live. The drugs didn't even make me happy anymore. I could smoke marijuana all day long, drink. It's like none of it. I don't know. I didn't even enjoy it, and I was just miserable. I was like, there was nothing to live for. Nothing made me happy. But yet I knew suicide was wrong. So I was in a pickle, just a mess. And I left the house that day, and I knew I was in a pretty bad place. And I reached out to some guys that had tried to help me, and they would invite me to their Bible studies and this and that over the years. Of course, they knew I was a mess, but they were some good guys, and they tried to help me. And I reached out that day. I said, I've got to have some help. I said, I'm not going to make it much longer if I don't get some help. I'm in bad shape. And it wasn't but about a week later, I was actually sitting on the same couch in my little house and got a call and was saying, would you be willing? I said, yes, I would. And the guy's like, would you be willing? I said, yes, I would. And I was wanting help. And he was like, would you be willing to go get help? And they said real fast, he said, would you be willing to go get help? He said, we might even be able to get it paid for. And I said, yes, I would. I'm not going to make it much longer. But from that day on, it's like everything started changing. I thought, is God giving me another chance here? I thought, is he going to, is he like, I don't know, there was something about rescue. And I thought about seeing this little, kind of crazy, but I could see this little guy pitching the little, whatever, inner tube and the rope out to somebody in the river. I was like, is God giving me another chance? And so from that day forward, I started feeling a little bit of hope again. It was just a little by little, but it was a little hope. I felt a little spark. And I was ready to go get help I was ready to go that day. But where my retina had detached, I had a surgery coming up. So as soon as my eye healed up, then I was going to go get help. I wasn't sure where yet, but I was going to go get help. And got to calling around, and I actually called our Operation Unite president and CEO. She's a good friend of mine, and Miss Nancy Hale, and we were talking, and she said, James, I don't think they're going to let you take those Klonopin at Chad's Hope. And that's basically like a Valium. And I said, well, maybe Chad's Hope ain't where I need to go. I was going to go get better and keep taking those pills that had tried to destroy me for 20-some years, That's how bad, that's just how bad they had done me. I was that deceived. I thought I could go get better and keep taking pills. And that's the only way to tell you, I was just, a mess. So anyway, we kept looking around, and it all worked out to where I had, long story short, don't want to bore you guys, but I had, 6 eye surgeries all total, but I had 4 over the next 5 months before I could go to Chad's. And of course, they didn't nobody think I was coming. They kept, every time I called, they'd be like, yeah, okay, we'll see when you get here. Of course, they didn't think I was coming. But when I went through that, there was a time there I had to spend like a week at a time looking down. You had to look straight down because they'd put the gas bubble in my eye. And in order for that retina to reattach, you had to look down. And I had to look down like 16, 18 hours a day. So while I was doing that, you can't do much when you're laying down looking at the floor, but I would hang over the side of the bed and get my phone out. And of course, I didn't do this nonstop. I did watch some comedy, but I read the Bible a lot, and I prayed a lot. And I don't know, I was staying with some folks from church that were helping me, an older couple, and I was so bitter. And I had an ex-girlfriend tell me, she said, you was really, really hard to be around. And people like down at the center where I'm at now, they didn't know me before, so they had no idea how far, the Lord brought me. But, if you said, here you go, here's a glass of water, it'd be like, well, it ain't half full, or it's warm. I just gripe about everything. My dad said, you couldn't get along with the good Lord, son. And I was that grouchy and hateful, just had a terrible attitude. But I stayed with those folks, and I just started watching how they interacted with each other, and their grandkids would come over. And of course, we never did have a big family, real loving family. And I would just see the love. I mean, they would correct their grandkids stuff, but, you know, they didn't just hand them money, go do it. I mean, they were just really good kids, really good people, well-respected people. And I started watching, you know, and I thought, well, maybe, let me say this first. I remember the lady, I told her husband, I said, man, that is the most, I said, you know, I guess it's good to be positive, but I said, you could tell that lady who's dying of cancer, your wife, I said, she would say, well, if you told her you had 6 months to live, she'd say, well, that's 6 months you got to serve the Lord. And I thought, that's the craziest bunch of junk I ever heard in my life. I mean, that was my attitude. And, you know, as I was staying with them, I wasn't taking 15 or 20 Xanax a day. I would just take just a few because I wasn't out around a lot of people. And so over the months there, I was kind of detoxing, didn't even really realize it. Started seeing things clear, and I thought, you know what, these people's got a big fine home, they're well respected, they're good people. I mean, they got good hearts, seem like they're good folks. Maybe I need to pay attention to these people. And so, anyway, I just started trying to be more positive and just take in what they were saying. And long story short, they really impacted my life, big time. Finally, let me speed up here, I'm dragging, sorry about that. I actually got to Chad's Hope February the 20th, 2013. That was the last, I had taken those pills from 1982 to February 20th, 2013. I'd probably missed about 12, 13 months. Other than that, I took them for about 30 out of 31 years. And that was the last one. That morning, I had to take one before I went to the center. I was so nervous, I was laying in that chair waiting on those same people to come get me, take me to the program. My mind was going about 10,000 miles an hour, it seemed like, all night thinking, who's going to do this, who's going to take care of that, what's this place going to be like? I'd never done anything like that. Couldn't eat, my stomach was in knots. And I thought, you know, I'm going to take I got one more pill left over there, and I'm going to take that last pill so I can try to get up and get my stuff packed. And I took that one little old pill, and I was floating on cloud nine because I hadn't been taking any. But that's the last one I've had. I haven't had one since, and I haven't had a craving for one. And that's nothing I've done. That's just that is by the power and grace and love of the Lord. I haven't looked back. I just got to the center, like I said, I had no idea what I was getting into. I knew it was a religious place, and I went there to try to get back, you know, get close. I don't know about get closer. I actually went to get close to the Lord because I wasn't ever really close to. Looking back, I really never was close to begin with. But I went there to get close to the Lord. They have you know, devotions of the morning, devotions of the night, study all day, you know, from the Bible, biblical principles, and so I spent a lot of time. You know, I was there with 19, 20-year-olds and me 47, you know, felt really foolish. It had to swallow some pride, but there was just a lot of good there. You know, I learned, went through all kinds of little trials. I'll be honest with you, the hardest one, when I got there, I remember the director coming down and sitting with me one day, and about the third day there, he's like, how are you doing? I said, Mike, I'm really struggling. I said, I can't even sit down and eat because I was shaking so bad. I mean, I couldn't hold anything. And I said, I feel like there's 500 people in this room, and there's like 25. And so I thought, you know, anything else I can pretty much block out and I can deal with, but I got to eat. And I thought, I don't know how I'm going to do this, you know, but we would pray, he would pray with me, and I prayed and prayed and prayed. And the more I prayed, the more things worked out. And I began to see that, you know what, this God that's God way back here with Abraham and all these guys in that Old Testament, this God's real. And I mean, I started seeing prayers answered. I mean, I wouldn't say, hey, Lord, give me this or this, or I'd say, just strengthen me or give me show me what you're trying to teach me. And I'm telling you, there's one thing after another that worked out. And, of course, Romans 8:28, for we know that all things work to good to them that love God, who are called according to his purpose. That became one of my favorite verses because I could just see things answered and working in my life, you know. And it was just, I don't know, like I said, it was just one trial after another. But then, my whole purpose was to grow. I was telling a staff member the other day, I would actually, because I knew I was there for 12 months, and then I would be back out in the world, so I wanted to learn as much as I could learn and get as close to God as I could and try to basically put on as much armor as I could before I went back out in the world, because I knew it was going to be really hard. And I would even, which was really foolish looking back, but I would even ask for God to, give me, it's like everything's going too smooth. I mean, I can't grow like this. I want something. Give me a test. I want to grow. I want to get stronger, you know. And, of course, one of the staff members was like, man, don't ever do that because you're going to get plenty. But I was wanting to grow. You know, I was wanting to do as much as I could. I was trying to be a sponge. And I don't know. It's just it just, everything changed. You know, my heart changed. I was, like I said, I had never really lived. I just existed. And I don't know, I began to have, in my 4th or 5th month in the program, I remember the operations manager telling a guy that was graduating, he was like, listen, when you go out of here, you know, don't just stay clean and sober. Go out and make a difference. Make a difference. And my mother had, and I could tell you another dozen stories, but my mother had this little keychain I found. She'd passed away, but it said make a difference on it. It was an apple. And I thought, you know, there's just something about that little make a difference. And I thought, I'm going to make a difference now. And so I started writing letters to people back at church, encouraging them, hey, don't just be a churchgoer. Don't be religious on Sunday. You know, Father, you got to give it all to the Lord. You know, He wants you to love Him with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. It's not about being religious, you know. And just little things I started kind of encouraging and challenging folks to step up, you know. And I don't know, it's just, I sat here and ramble on, it's just been amazing. After I finished, well, right before I finished the program, my 10th month of the program, I was sitting out back and just fretting like crazy again. I thought, man, what am I going to do? I had wanted to help people that I'd always, I don't know, for years, for some reason, it's like it was in the back of my mind, I want to help people struggling with addiction. But, of course, I couldn't help nobody because obviously I couldn't help myself. And so that older couple I stayed with, they encouraged me to go back to school and become a counselor. And so I'm sitting out back praying, thinking, man, I'm in my 10th month, my time's almost up here. I've burned every bridge. I've probably been fired from 12, 13 jobs, or quit. A couple of them I quit, but most all of them I've been fired. I thought, you know, who's going to give me a job? And you know, I didn't feel like I'd go back to school at 47. But as I was sitting there praying, you know, again, I heard that little voice, and it was like, trust me. Just trust me. And I thought, you know, Lord, you've brought me through every trial that I have faced while I've been in this program. I'm not going to pray. I'll trust you. So I just quit praying. I got up. Of course, the next day I was fretting again. But I was walking through the hall, and I told one of the operation, something like that. I think his title was operations manager. I told Bob, I said, Bob, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. And he said, James, you need to talk to the director. And I said, why is that? And he said, well, they have a spot on staff for you. They're just waiting to see what you're going to do. They're wanting you to make a commitment. And I was like, they want me? And he's like, yeah. And so anyway, long story short, I was asked to come on as a staff, which I didn't do much early on, but answer the phone, take some mail out, and watch over study hall. You know, it's pretty simple little stuff. But they asked me to stay on. That was that was just a big honor for me. Wasn't long after I finished the program, I'd been fired from the school system there in Rockcastle in 2010. I was asked to come back and do the halftime honors, flipping the coin or before the game rather, at the Unite Bowl. And the referees was like, how'd you manage this? And I was like, what are you talking about? And he said, you must be somebody. And I was like, no, I ain't nobody. I said, they didn't have no money this year, and I was all they could get. He said, you know, they have congressmen and senators, state senators, and all this stuff usually does this. I said, you must be somebody. And I was like, I ain't nobody. But that was a real honor, you know, because I'd been fired and kind of humiliated by losing my job, that public job, you know. But to go back and do that was an honor. The high school asked me to come back and speak to the Unite Club. Again, that was an honor. You know, to some people it may not be much, but for me, you know, it was, you know, I knew there was a ton of people they could have asked. And to ask me, a guy running around doing pills, carrying guns, wrecking cars, and acting crazy, you know, that stuff's a big deal. And, you know, and I don't want to say any of this to Brad. I'm going to close it just a second. I'm not going to say anything, like I said, I'm nothing. I just surrendered and give it to the Lord and ask Him to use me. I said, just make me a mighty warrior for your cause. That was one of the things I prayed a lot. And, you know, I was had an article on the front page of the Signal, the local paper, about my, you know, wanting to give back and help people with addiction. You know, I was on the radio several times. Actually got to share my testimony on TV, on live TV, and I was really a wreck. That was live TV, but, you know, it's just, you know, there's hundreds of thousands of people could have seen that. And so just to have the opportunity to say, hey, you know what, if you're struggling or somebody's struggling, doesn't matter if they struggle for 10 years, 15 years, whatever. Don't matter if they struggle for 25 years, you know. There's hope if you'll just give it to the Lord, you know. But you got to give it to Him. You know, that was the key for me. You know, I tried to fix it a lot of times, you know, throughout those years. I tried to control it, and I think I'm going to quit this, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But it's pretty powerful stuff. And I don't know, none of my friends that have, that I ran with, I don't know if any of them is able to quit on their own. The only way I've seen people do it is by giving everything to the Lord and wholeheartedly give it to Him. I think that is the key. Not trying to preach, but that's definitely my experience. The guy that told me to go talk to the director about the job, he moved on not too awful long after I'd been there. And mind you, I just started texting before I went to the program. So I'm very computer techno illiterate. And this guy leaves, and they said, well, they got to have a guy to do all the billing and all that stuff back in the office. And I was like, who are they going to get? And they said, they're going to get you. And I was like, do what? I said, I can't even text, you know. And they was like, yeah, they want you to do that. And so anyway, that was another door that opened, and so I do all the billing and all that stuff. I get to work as the administrative assistant doing that. Also the events coordinator, so I work with pastors, leaders, politicians, and you know, it's just crazy the people I can pick up and call on the phone. And it's, like I said, it's just God has opened doors and put me in a spot. You know, I had a guy from the congressman's office hanging out with us today, and I don't know, it's just been kind of surreal. And in closing, I'll just say a couple of other things the Lord did. I didn't have money to get help when I went to that program. I was flat broke, sitting on that couch. Operation Unite gave me $5,000, and that was nothing but a gift, you know, from God. Paid for my whole stay. Well, it paid for 3 or 4 months, and they said, you know, we see you're serious about this, and you're one of our best students. They said that they usually have guys go out and ask churches or groups or whatever for money, but they said don't worry about that. So that was all paid for. I was telling you about my eye surgeries, and I was just barely above legally blind after my first surgery, or before my first surgery. I had 1 in this one, 5 in this one, and today my vision's 20/30 in this eye without my glasses. I had about $80-some thousand worth of surgeries done. I didn't have a dime insurance, and the Lord took care of that. That was all paid for. I owed the bank $500, and I told the president of the bank, I was telling him the story before we went down to do the radio station. I said, God has took care of so much stuff for me. And I told him about Romans 8:28 being my favorite verse. I said, but I got to tell you something, Corey. I said, I owe your bank. I said, you probably don't know it since you're a big president. But I said, I owe your bank $500. And he said, well, I'm aware of it. He said, I think if you'll check, you'll see the Lord's took care of that as well. And so it's just like, one thing after another has worked out. And I just give it to him, and I'm just a little servant. And it's just a blessing to be here talking about the Lord. And I know I forgot some stuff and I rambled on, but appreciate you guys letting me come. And I hope somebody gets something out of my little speech. Bless y'all.